All right, guys, welcome back to Beyond Boundaries. I hope you guys have been liking the last few episodes. You know, we're trying to shift things up and get new guests in, where we can. And if you ever want to see something that, you're interested in, just give us a shout and we'll get someone on that is in the industry. But today we've got another guest. He's someone that has made a name for him in the real estate business, and we would love to introduce you to him. His name is Kieren Parata, and he works for his own business, Parata Property. So, Kieren, I just want you to just explain who you are, what you do, and how did you get into this industry?
Yeah, cool. Thank you guys for having me on. So, essentially, I'm a buyer's agent. So I help people buy property. I help them, navigate the real estate market. But really, in a sense, we're helping people to scale a property portfolio. So we mainly work with investors, clients that are looking to scale beyond just owning a home or a house. People that are looking to really build something big, right? In terms of like where I started, I used to work as a PT. And my fiancée was working in Bunnings. So back in COVID, when COVID kind of happened, that was kind of the catalyst for me to say, I need to find a way for us to get out of this trap, okay? Because once the gyms got shut down, I had no way to earn an income, right? And I didn't like having that control taken away. And that's kind of when I just started looking at things and trying to find something that was going to take us out of what we were in, which is obviously then when we chose real estate, and now, it's turned into what it is today.
Oh, wow. That's good. I think that's really powerful as well. So would you say that was one of your wires, that driving force to make a change for yourself was the COVID thing, but also wanting to provide and protect and be a good boyfriend to your woman, would you say?
Yeah. Definitely, because in my mind, I think I couldn't see any way out to where if I stayed working as a PT, going from gym to gym, what's life going to be in 6, 7, 8 years? I'm still going to be doing the same thing, and I had to, change something. But definitely Mackenzie, my fiancée, was a big, part of that because, of course, I wanted to be a man. I wanted to be able to provide and, give us and her a life that was beyond normal. I didn't want a normal life.
Definitely.
As everyone else, they want to have that change, and like you said, they don't want to see themselves in 5 years doing the same thing over and over again. Why did you choose real estate? Like, was it you and the fiance like pretty much agreed on the same thing? Let's do this. Like, or did you just go and just buy a house for yourselves and go like you could easily make money?
Because there's so much other businesses to step into as well, especially with the online market and modern day society. So like, how come real estate?
The thing that always attracted me to property was that it was tangible. Okay, so when I was researching and thinking what's going to be the thing to get us out of this trap, I liked that real estate was real, right? I could touch it, I could see it, I could feel it. It's like a physical thing, opposed to stocks and shares that there's no, like I can't see that. And I've always been a visual person, so that's kind of what initially attracted me to it. Okay, and like at the time we were saving. We'd moved back because of COVID, and I was, the gyms were shut. We moved back in with Mackenzie's mum and dad to save for our own house. Okay, and while we were, kind of doing that, I started to talk to her and say, like, is this really the Australian dream, of like owning a home that you live in, and now you're a slave to that for the next 30 years, paying that mortgage off. And of course, I'm sure you guys have heard it and seen it, that people are pushed on them to, when they leave school, save up a deposit, go and buy the house, live in it for 30 years, pay it off, and then retire and die. Okay? That's what, the ideal Australian dream is. And this is what, I started to question, thinking, is that like what I want to be doing? Is that what I want? And I sat Mackenzie down one day and I said, like, look at everybody around us that owns a home. Do they have a lifestyle that we want?
Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
No. And that's what made me kind of wake up to the fact that there's got to be a better way, okay? Which is why then obviously we didn't go down the path of buying a house for us to live in, and we started buying rental properties and investing. And that's kind of what led us on this path.
And I think that's awesome as well, that you realize and you saw through the deception of how the system tries to enslave people with debt and everything as well, because I'm sure, there's good debt and bad debt, right? And I think, being able to understand that is the best thing.
On that point, like something I learnt back then is that the difference between good debt and bad debt is debt that you don't pay, right? Bad debt is debt that you do pay. So when you go out and get a car loan, a university loan, you are liable to pay all of that debt back, okay? When you go out and buy a rental property, who's paying the debt back?
People that move into the property.
The tenant. The tenant. And this is what switched my thinking. Why would I take on a $700,000-$800,000 loan that I'm now working the rest of my life to pay off? Wouldn't you rather have someone else pay it off for you?
Absolutely. yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So I wanted to jump into a question which would be good for you as well. What were the key early steps and the foundation that laid out for your success? Was it like specific, information that you had to have? Were you like researching a lot on YouTube? Did you have a mentor? Was there anyone there for you?
So definitely what I did in the beginning, because when we were still in the infancy stage, I did what most people do. They go to their mum, their dad, their friends, their family, and ask and think, oh, what should we do? And of course, they all said, go and buy a house. Okay. So my thing back then, which I still live today, is that do not get advice from people that you don't want their life. Okay?
You don't want to be like.
You don't want to be like. So I found, and I consider him my mentor, even though he's in another country, but I started learning off a real estate investor who owns 10,000 apartments.
Oh, wow.
10,000.
That's crazy.
Right? So if I want, when I'm thinking, what path should I do, or what should I do with our money, our funds, what path should I take? Should I be listening to, auntie and uncle that own one home and have been there, lived there for 50 years, or am I going to listen to the billionaire that owns 10,000 apartments?
Billionaire, definitely. Quick math for
Right?
sure. Yeah.
So definitely that's kind of what I would say laid that foundation, is that I've tried to model my life, my success off what he has done. And I say the same thing to clients now, that my goal for them is to replicate for you, for my client, what we've done personally. That is it. I cannot show you any other way apart from what I know works and what we've done personally. That's it, right? So I'm, in a sense now, like as it's evolved, now my clients are replicating and mimicking me, right?
And I love that. And I think that's really powerful because the thing is you can help people also get success in getting their first real estate property, but also you change people's perception and their mindset and the lens they have with looking at real estate. What do you think about that, Johnny?
I definitely
Pretty
agree with
powerful,
that.
isn't it?
It is powerful. I wanted to ask what your blueprint for Parata Property is. Like when you first started, like you just said, you pretty much do for your clients what you've done yourself. Do you have like a couple properties that you own yourself? Or is it like all through the clientele?
Ourselves.
Yeah.
So when we started, so we bought our first property, I think it would have been in 2021, could have been 2022. And in that first year that we started, we were almost buying a property every month. Almost, I'd say at least every second month.
And that was before
Right?
you even started
Before we had the business.
Yeah.
So I never had any intent to have a business. I didn't even know what a buyer's agent was back then. It only came about because people were seeing what Mackenzie and I were doing, and they were seeing us buy, because I'd put it up on like Facebook every time we bought a property. And people had seen that we'd come from, I'm working in the gym, Mackenzie's working as a casual at Bunnings.
Two average Joes.
Like, how are these two, buying property so quickly? So people started noticing, and then people would start, messaging me and saying, like, how do you know what to look for? How do you know what to buy? How are you doing this, so fast? Which then gave me the idea to start the business, which we did last year.
Wow.
And that was really, I think, a big thing for Mackenzie and I was that we always said that if we ever figured this out and like figured out how to go from earning, I think back then after COVID, I think I was earning about $21 an hour, right?
$21 an hour?
An hour. The other day, this is a bit of a side note, but the other day I went back through my pay slips from back when I was, working in the fitness industry, and it was $21.
That's a really good motivator to look at that and to where you come now in such a short amount of time. That's very potent.
Yeah. So that was always the goal for us, was that we always said that if we figured this like game out, the real estate game, that we would help other people do it and do what we've done. Because, we have clients from like all walks of life, but 90% of them would just be like everyday Aussies. People that don't have like millions of dollars to invest, or, they're just getting started. And that is, like, to me, the most rewarding part, is that I can help, people that were in the same position as us, and they're now buying their, second, third, fourth, some more property.
That's sick.
And that's really good. And I think that's such an important thing when it comes to success and with life. The success you can see in others is a quote I said yesterday. The success you can see in others is or yourself is what you see in others, right? And when it comes to God's kingdom, you're building yourself so abundantly that you pour into other people's cups. And I think that's such a fulfilling thing, truly in your heart. I can imagine it feels so good.
1,000%. Like that really now, I think, has become like Mackenzie and mine, like our life mission is to help like people financially, to help them build a legacy, to help them come out of like lack and struggle and poverty, and to build something that they never thought they could, because we've got, clients that are in their early 20s. We've got clients that are in their 50s and 60s. We've got clients that are married, single, that are, some of them are on $60,000, $70,000 income, but we can still help them.
Such a wide spectrum of people you're helping. And it's not just specified for one kind of person. It's anywhere. It can be any culture, any color, any place, any income. You can make a transition and help people truly transform. So I wanted to ask as well, what is like the step-by-step process you take your clients through from the very beginning? As soon as you I guess your clients and stuff, and I guess like what your business is, what's the step-by-step process?
Step one would be we do like a strategy session, like an onboarding. So we kind of go through our blueprint. We get crystal clear on what it is that we're going to be doing for that client. So if you guys, or you came to me and said, I'm wanting to work with you. First off, we're going to find out where you want to be in 3, 4, 5 years' time, because we want to reverse engineer that entire process so that we know what we need to do to get you to that point. But in terms of actually buying the property, we pretty much handle everything for the client. So the sourcing of the property, all of the vetting, the analyzing, all of the due diligence, any liaising that needs to be done with third parties. It really is a stress-free service. The clients don't have to worry about anything. Like we have everything covered.
So what is the things they do have to worry about, or things they have to, I guess, the weight they have to pull on their side to join you in business and make sure they get mentored by you?
Well, one would be coming with the right mindset, right? I'd say across the board with our clientele is nearly all of them would think similar to us, would have a similar mindset to say, do I really want to go out and buy a home? Do I really want to be a slave to paying off a mortgage for the next 30, 40 years? Okay, so all of them have that same desire to break out of the system, break the mold, break, what would be considered normal. And they all have that affinity to do that. It's just they don't know how, which is obviously where we come in, and we're kind of, leading them to that. But of course, somebody, in terms of the technicalities, somebody would have to be employed and earning an income, because obviously buying property, you're part of the deal is you're partnering with the bank. So,
power
we need to be able to borrow money. But because most of the properties we buy are sub $400,000, they're under $400K, you don't need a lot of capital and borrowing capacity to actually get into a deal like that.
And do you look for properties for your clients and yourself that are possible to get equity within the property, so you can use that onto other properties? Yeah.
Correct. So we find properties that are below replacement cost or below market value. So meaning that if a property is valued at, say, 400K, but we can secure it for 320 or 330, whatever the number is, that difference is what is known as equity, which we then use that to then fund their next deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how, because we buy in that strategy, that's how a lot of our clients are buying their third, fourth, fifth property after being with us for less than a year, because you're not reliant on your own savings. Okay. When Mackenzie and I were scaling our portfolio, everybody thought how can they be putting in a 20% deposit every month? Where can you get that money from? Okay. We did that on the first one, but because we used the equity to then fund the subsequent purchase, that's how we're able to do it so quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That definitely does.
Yeah.
And then the money you get back pretty much becomes like a passive income.
Yeah. So like an example, like in practice, like we bought a, like exactly in that way, we bought a property for a client that settled back in June, and we bought it for $315. 6 weeks later, we had it revalued at $400K. So that, 75, 80K difference, we then cash that equity out and then use it to fund their next purchase.
Wow.
So the hardest part is getting the first one. If you can get enough, like do whatever you've got to do to get a deposit together on the first one, and you come to me, we can turn that into many, many properties
Yeah.
from that one deposit.
Is it just a deposit that's needed? And from then, once someone does have the deposit, is it hard to obtain a house from there? Or would you say it's not too bad now because of the knowledge that you do have?
Say that again?
So
how do you mean?
Yeah, so technically what I was meaning is, let's just say someone does get a deposit, enough for a deposit, and they come to you for your services. From there, is it pretty hard for you guys to obtain a house and look for houses? Or would you say that you're pretty good at that now to find something pretty quick? And
It's definitely not easy, okay? Because at the moment, I mean, I'm sure you, like anyone has seen on the news and that the real estate market is crazy, okay? So why most people are struggling is that they're going onto realestate.com and domain, going online to find something that fits within the budget. They go out and, they go out to look at the property. They turn up there. There's 50 to 60 people at the open home. And then you're then competing against, 10 other buyers and to secure the property. So the price keeps going up and up and up.
People just keep upping you, $10,000 extra,
Yes.
$5,000 extra.
So something could be listed for $400,000, but it ends up selling for $480, right? So all of pretty much 80 to 90% of what we buy for clients is what is considered off market, meaning that it's not on realestate.com or domain.
yeah,
We're going direct to the seller or direct to the developer, direct to the seller may have an agent, but we're cutting out that issue of negotiating and competing against so many other people, because that's how the price just goes insane.
Yeah, I like that strategy. Would you say you do like a lot of cold calling to the people that own the house, or are they like houses that are already for sale, just not on the market?
The reason why that we're able to, kind of get that access for our clients is that you've got to remember that when Mackenzie and I were buying like our properties, like building our portfolio, this was back in like 2021, 2022. So it was still in that like COVID time. So people were not buying the way they are now. Yeah. That there were properties that we were buying back then for $240,000, right? It was like insane. But because I knew that the agents, the selling agents were almost like the gatekeeper, they held the key because they knew where these deals were. So back then, we started, like I knew that, I needed to form relationships with these like agents. So we started buying, we'd buy like multiple properties off the same agent. And then, a couple of months in, they'd call me and say, hey, Kieren, we've got this, property in Mount Lawley. It's off market. 350, 360. What do you think? Right? And there was no competition. And we closed on those deals. So in that process of us, building our own, assets and wealth, I formed all of the right, connections. So now I leverage that for my clients.
So you'd say that's a really important asset to have, the connections, the mindset, the connections, and especially the relationship with the agent, so you can continue to buy and buy and buy without the competition.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a key
Definitely.
thing. Yeah.
With anything. I mean, even whether it's, business, real estate, whatever it is, money is like it's energy, right? You have to exchange, like when people say, I make money, right? Or I'm going to go like, how much money have you made, right? We are not the government. We're not going out and making money. You're not printing money, right? So the only way you can make it is through a person.
Taking it off someone.
Is through a person.
Sometimes in life, it's all about who you know.
Yeah.
Even like in the industry that I'm in, I'm FIFO, to have your foot in the door, and then once you get your foot in the door, it's about the people that you've like come across in the FIFO industry that are going to bring you more up and up and up and upskill and level up.
Absolutely, I agree with that as well. And that's such a powerful thing you said just then, Johnny, but also Kieren, about that. The government, they print money, the Federal Reserve, right? You can never go make money. You got to take it off people. It's technically sales, everything at sales. Being able to win over people's, elicit attention of them so you can continue to win. Yeah. So for your clients as well, have all of them been successful so far within their journeys? First properties and stuff, has that all gone pretty smooth for like all of your clients?
All of them.
All of them? Yeah.
All of them. So the only, I'd say the only thing we run into, right, is because obviously my ethos or my, way of doing things is that I would rather a client delay buying their own home for now, build up their portfolio, build up enough assets, cash flow, income, real estate, and then we can go and look at that, okay? But what I've found is that, some clients do, they get to their, second or third property, and then rather than just staying and repeating, the same actions that got us to that point, they then go, I want to go get the, the house now, or I want to go, buy the car or whatever it is. And it's they just kind of get a little bit off course.
Yeah. Bit impatient, you would say?
A bit
Sort of like they want to rush into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of in terms of all the clients, it's been amazing.
Yeah, wow. Me and Johnny and I must have to come to you soon when we go for our first property. Yeah, absolutely.
I get an investment property soon.
Yeah. I think sometime next year I'll be going for it for sure. 100%. Probably in the end of the year. Yeah.
Do not go and buy a home.
I thought I'll be coming to you. So
Yeah.
that's definitely what
because,
will be happening as well.
Part of the reason why I kind of advocate for that is because most people go, like the normal thing to do is go to a broker, especially in like people that are our age, like in their early or mid to late 20s, and 9 times out of 10 they're in a relationship. Okay, so what most people are doing is that they go to a broker, find out how much they can borrow, whether it's 600,000, 700,000, whatever the number is, and then they go on realestate.com, find something that fits that, and then they go out and buy that. Okay, so now they have no ability to ever buy anything that is actually going to pay them. Right now, they've used up all of their borrowing capacity on a home that they're now a slave to.
No, that's bad debt. Is that what you call
That's bad debt?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because if you're like, if you are paying for that debt, why would you pay for it when somebody else can pay for it?
Absolutely. Well, I think you may as well get someone else to pay for it.
Yes.
Like you said, I think the perception people have nowadays is exactly what their parents tell you. Go to university, buy a house. So I think completely eradicating that perception to be able to come to someone like yourself, someone knowledgeable, someone that can get shit done for you. I think that's the best thing to have as well.
And that's what I would like say to you guys, to the listeners, is that like look at the people in your life. Okay? Look at everybody that owns a home. Okay? Do you see abundance? Do you see where they're like traveling and living a life that's like where they're free? Okay. Do you see, amazing trips and like holidays, or do you just see, mediocre.
Yeah, it's 95.
Right?
9 to 5.
And
that's it.
this is what I said to Mackenzie. When I was like assessing our like friends and family, it's not in a way to put them down. Like I'm not saying, our families, beneath us or anything like that. But it's just to say that if all of this owning your own home, like why is it not, if it's so hyped up as being the Australian dream, is that a dream for you?
It's a cage.
To just be barely getting by. Now you're obligated to stay, employed in a job for 30 years.
You probably don't even
because that you don't like. Because how else are you going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Right? When I left my, PT and even when I left the job that I was doing to start the business, I had no fear of like, oh my God, how am I going to pay for my house? How am I going to pay for our real estate? Because it's all being funded by other people. Right? Freedom.
Freedom, yeah, that's what freedom is.
Yeah.
I wanted
Being
to
able
ask
to do what you
a
want.
question as well on the debt and everything. I always heard that the more asset you have and the more debt that you create for yourself gives you the power to even borrow even more from the bank. Is that true?
Yeah.
Definitely, eh?
Yes.
So the more you go in debt, pretty much, like you said, good debt, the more the bank would be like, all right, so you have all these assets that we could potentially take from you if you don't pay it. Here's more money.
Absolutely. What like I would tell you guys is that like what I started doing is that when I said about, I found someone that I can like mold my life after, okay, is when I'm, saying to Mackenzie, look around us, look at, do these people have what we want, okay? That's when I started to really study wealthy people, okay? Study companies, okay? Why does like Apple computers, okay, or even Microsoft, whatever, Amazon, they have billions, if not trillions of dollars in cash, but they still choose to take out debt?
How come that is?
Because you need debt to grow.
Grow, yeah.
Right, like if I didn't take out a loan or debt on an investment property and I had to save $400,000 before I go and buy it, how long is that going to take me to do that? A lifetime.
Yeah, about 30, 40 years.
If that.
Yeah.
Okay? But if I can take a loan on that, I'm growing my wealth, my assets, my cash flow by doing that.
Creates freedom in a way. So many people don't understand that debt. Being in debt can create freedom. You might have, let's say, millions of dollars of debt, but yet the assets or the investments that you make with that debt is pretty much paying for your lifestyle at the same time.
Correct.
While you're paying off the debt. So
Mackenzie and I have millions of dollars in debt.
Yeah. And that's such a fallacy for...
It's crazy to say that. Right? It does scare Mackenzie sometimes. Like, I just say, don't look at our bank accounts because she scrolls. And of course, we own a lot of property, so there are a lot of accounts. And then it tells you the total debt figure down the bottom. And I'm like, Bub, just don't look at it.
So I've got
all of that debt is being paid for by our tenants.
Exactly that. And also being able to pay for your lifestyle at the same time.
And providing cash flow, yes. And it's paying, the tenant is also paying down the loan on that property.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's really
It is
good.
crazy.
Yeah.
It is.
Different strategies you can use to actually create success.
And a lot of people don't believe in that. People think that's a fallacy, but that's something that's news breaking. I think a lot of people need to know. So I've got something else I wanted to dive into. So Mackenzie and you are doing this business together, right? I wanted to ask, how's it been running a business with your loved one, and what are the challenges, if there are any? Because she's your fiancée as well. Is that
Fiancée, yes. So we're getting married in December.
Congratulations.
Thank you. For us, people may not believe this, but we really don't have any challenges.
Oh, wow.
So I truly believe that the only reason we have any of this or have, the money we do, the business we do, the assets that we do is because of Mackenzie, right? Because of the there's a scripture in the Bible that says, if two of you come in agreement, okay, then it's done. Like you can do anything, right? Like if two or more come in agreement, then there's so much power in that, okay? And I think as well, like we often go to like networking events and, parties or whatever. And a lot of the time, like people will turn to me and say, like, how have you done this? Right? Like I think because it is quite a masculine thing to be like investing and doing real estate and that. So often they just direct it to me. But I always correct them and say, it really is because of like the partnership that we have. Okay.
Always on agreements.
Yes. And I think as well, I've always said that, Mackenzie does, I would be more of the hammer, the driver. Okay. Like I'm more like the pusher on our goals and what we want to achieve. And she really is, I'd say, more of that like support function. Okay. But I always say to people that if you think of like you going to build like a massive building or like a skyscraper, or, like a massive, construct, right? If the support underneath whatever you build on top needs to be stronger than, what it's carrying, right?
Wow.
So out of Mackenzie and I, and she's the support function, who's stronger out of us two?
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good
Right?
way to put it.
And I think as well, like, of course, it depends on, the relationship itself. But I think a lot of women, and that's why I always, give Mackenzie credit for that. It would set them like free because so many women have that like fear of, I got to work or I've got to be doing like this and that. And they see that like being a wife or being a mother or being a support function, they see that as being the lesser thing in the relationship.
Especially in modern day.
For me, it's like it's even greater than anything I'm doing.
100%. Yeah.
Right? Because without her, we would not have any of this. And it is hard for her to be with someone like me because I am so driven.
Yeah.
I'm never satisfied with like where we're at, our goals. And I it's hard. It's hard to be with, because it would be easy for us just to say, okay, we don't need the business. We're fine. We're happy. Let's go buy our home and just settle. It would be easy to do that.
That's not the way you want.
That's
not what I want.
You don't like easy. You like to keep pushing yourself.
And what you said as well, I wanted to touch base into as well, the agreement, the covenant, the pledge, and the verse from the Bible. I think that's such an important thing and a very powerful, potent thing, because the thing is when the masculine and feminine come together, they're like two sides of the same coin. And I think it's very magical once they come together and that agreement to go out on conquest, to conquer, or to completely create something for yourself. And it seems like you and Mackenzie are a representation of that.
Definitely. I mean, we the way I see it in my mind, and of course we don't like say that we are this, it's just, visually, it's how we look at our relationship, is that we look at it like a king and a queen and an empire, right? Like we see our business, our real estate as our empire. And if you are the king and queen of that, you have roles and responsibilities within that empire. It doesn't mean that one is lesser or one is greater. It is, what are you doing for the greater good of that relationship?
Yeah.
For your future, for what you are building together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people are so selfish in their own world that they don't understand when they're in a relationship. You got to be there for the both, not just yourself.
And like I it's hard for me to put into words what Mackenzie has done like for me and for us. But I see it because often, like when I talk to clients or if they're younger and they're in a relationship, I may speak to, one of them and they're like, yes, let's go, let's invest, let's, go down this path. And then the other one is, no, I don't want to do that. Right. So there's no agreement. Right. And they can't flourish within that because one, they're going off in other directions. I mean, that's like why I don't agree with the saying that, opposites attract.
Same.
If you're going north and I'm going south, well, where are you going to end up?
It's like positive and negative.
Right? Like, you're not going to end up together.
Yeah, I've had that so many times with the opposite attracts, and I think that's a complete bullshit. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what are the trends and indicators should investors that are young wanting to get into real estate be looking for in 2024?
The trends?
Yeah, the trends, things like that. Like, what should people be looking for? Should people be just coming straight to you? Think? I reckon that's a good idea with the knowledge you have.
That's a good trend.
But let's just say someone doesn't come to you and they need a little bit of knowledge. What would be like the top 3 things, or just a couple of things they'll need to approach the situation positively and in a good perception?
So the first thing I would focus on is like cash flow. Okay, finding a property where what you can get in the rent is going to cover the mortgage. Okay, that's the first thing because you don't want to be paying that. Part of investing is that, and that's obviously why I don't go down, the negative gearing path. Is that if I'm putting my money into something, if I'm investing, I want it to pay me. I want, I don't want to be, putting in extra funds every, week or month or whatever it is. So I would say focus on finding a property where there's a high rental yield. Number 2 would be, looking at a location that's, like a growing area. Okay, where you can see that there's, transport or amenities, school, childcare, like things that have an appeal. Okay, most of our properties that we bought are all kind of around like Mount Lawley, West Perth, East Perth, kind of 10 to 15
CBD,
Ks within the CBD. We do have some that are, more regional, but as kind of like a generic guide, I'd say, kind of stick to within like 15 Ks of the CBD.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
as a starting point.
absolutely.
But the biggest trend would be to come and work with me. That would be the trend of the year.